Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Renu Tyagi from Department of Anthropology, University of Delhi. Today I am going to speak on the module Environmental Protest, Movements and Activism from the paper Ecological Anthropology, Cultural and Biological Dimensions. The learning objectives of this module are: number 1, to understand the environmental problems. Number 2, to understand the movement to safeguard the environment. Number 3, to understand the relation of the different methods of farming and its effect on the environment. Now let us see introduction about environmental movement and its problem. We know that environment and human have had a very intimate relationship since the beginning of time. But this is changing with the human growing greedier on the resources that nature had to provide. Activism is any action taken to create changes. These can be focused on political, economic, social or environmental issues. There have been many attempts to safeguard the environment and create a balance between humans and the environment so that there continues to be a harmonious surrounding for not only the humans but other species may also continue to thrive. This has led to a number of movements. Environmental movement in order to safeguard the environment around us. The environmental problems can be understood. A better understanding of the health effect of environmental change is only just emerging. These are based on many things, partly based on observation of current health outcome, association partly on scenario analysis, and in both cases surrounded by considerable uncertainty. These health effects are mediated by a number of causal pathways, of which the most important probably are heat waves and other extreme weather events, changes in the spread of microorganisms, changes in the biological productivity of land and water, and pollution of air and water. Analysis of the population health effect of global warming suggests that global warming is already causing major health effect on all, mainly through the heat related mortality and morbidity and climate induced changes in the incidence of infectious diseases. The largest part of this burden is shouldered by developing countries like Africa and Southeast Asia, and not by the countries in Western Europe and North America, which have historically contributed most to greenhouse gas emission. A quarter of the Earth's terrestrial surface is now used for human purposes, and deforestation, irrigation and other land use changes are often associated with changes in the spread of microorganisms. Erosion, desertification and salinization of fertile soils threaten the food production necessary for a rapidly increasing world population, of which a large part is already malnourished. Humans use fresh water for irrigation, drinking and household purposes, exceeding the available supplies, and therefore require withdrawal from groundwater stocks. Many populations already experience freshwater shortages, and the supply of safe water is further threatened by chemical pollution, which has almost reached the end of the earth. Destruction of the habitat of other species, introduction of the invasive species, pollution of air, water and soil, and over-harvesting by hunting and fishing have led to a massive extinction of plant and animal species. Biodiversity losses may indirectly threaten human health. Although some of the postulated health effects can already be empirically observed in some population, most are conjectures with varying degree of statistical certainty, theoretical justification and dependence on intervening developments. Unfortunately, healthcare has made and is still making major contribution to these global environmental changes. Hospitals consume large amount of energy, water and material, and hospital waste can contribute substantially to air, water and soil pollution. A striking illustration is that medical care, for example, broken thermometers is responsible for most of the mercury emission into the environment. We are also becoming aware of the fact that the successful promotion of population health has contributed importantly to the inhuman population number and all the environmental pressure this has generated. This rise has occurred in three great waves, of which the third took place around the middle of the 20th century. This was largely due to the public health measures such as improved water supply and waste removal, insect control, vaccination and antibiotics. Now let us discuss the environmental movement one by one. First of all, let us come to the Chipko movement. The Chipko movement or Chipko Andolan was primarily a forest conservation movement which went on to become an important point for many future environmental contrast and movements all over the world and created a precedent of non-violent protest that started in India. This movement occurred at a time when there were less of environmental movement in the developing world, and the success of this movement meant that the world immediately took notice of this non-violent movement, which inspired many such eco groups by helping to slow down the rapid deforestation, increase ecological awareness and demonstrate the viability of people power that could save the environment. Figure 1 shows the Chipko movement. The first Forest Act in India was enacted in 1927. Many provisions of that act were inimical to the interest of the tribal and the common folk living in the forest. A big rally was held to protest against such issues at Tilari in 1930. The rally ended with the murder of 17 commoners by the Royal Army. In 1949, the Tehri Garhwal region constituting part of the Uttar Pradesh was annexed to the Indian Federation. In remembrance of the 17 martyrs, May 30 is observed as the Forest Day every year. The protest, which occurred in 1930, gradually developed into a strong movement during the early 1970s. This movement came to be known as the Chipko movement. The word Chipko means embarrassing. In 1961, Sarla Ben, a disciple of Mahatma Gandhi, took the initiative in forming the Uttarakhand Sarvodaya Mandal. People participating in constructive social work were getting involved in the struggle for protection of forest. On May 30, 1968, a large number of tribal men and women joined the Chipko struggle. They resisted the affluent contractors and the industrialists in their act of plundering the forest. Historic marches against the indiscriminate looting of the forest were organized in Uttarakashi and Gopeshwar on December 12 and 15 in 1972. In April 1973, when there was an attempt to fell the tree on a dark night, the tribal women resisted by embracing the tree like their own children. Women spent sleepless nights in guarding the trees. Some notable names of those who led the movement include Saralaben, Meeraben, Gopeshwar, Sundarlal Bahuguna and Chandi Prasad Bhatt. In March 1974, 27 tribal women under the leadership of Gauri Devi guarded the trees for many nights at a stretch. The important call that the struggle raised was that the original species diversity of the forest must be left undisturbed. Women must have the right to collect fodder and fuel wood from the forest. It is so gratifying to note that it was the so-called illiterate tribal women who first came forward to demand the conservation of the environment. They did not demand the forest, but only urged for the natural growth and conservation of the forest resources. The next is Narmada Bachao Andolan (NBA). It is a social movement consisting of the Adivasis, farmers, environmentalists and human rights activists against a number of large dams being built across the Narmada river, which flows through the states of Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh and Maharashtra, all in India. Sardar Sarovar Dam in Gujarat is one of the biggest dams on the river and was one of the first local point of the movement. Narmada Bachao Andolan is the most powerful mass movement which started in 1985 against the construction of huge dam on the Narmada river. Narmada is India's largest west flowing river which supports a large variety of people with distinguished culture and tradition ranging from the indigenous, that is tribal people inhabiting the jungles here to the large number of rural population. The proposed Sardar Sarovar Dam and Narmada Sagar would displace people who are residing on the banks of the river. The big fight was over the resettlement or rehabilitation of these people. This figure displays the Narmada Bachao movement. Led by one of the prominent leader Medha Patkar, it had been turned into international protest, gaining support from the NGOs all around the globe. Protesters are agitating the issue through mass media, hunger strikes, massive marches, rallies and through the screening of several documentary films. Although they protested peacefully, they were being harassed, arrested and beaten up by the police several times. The Narmada Bachao Andolan had been pressurizing the World Bank to withdraw its loan for the project through media. Soil conservation is the best way to make sure that we have the land we need to live on. Erosion is the biggest enemy of the soil and land conservation. Techniques for improved soil conservation include crop rotation, cover crops, conservation tillage and planted windbreaks that affect both soil erosion and fertility. When plants, especially the trees, die, they decay and become part of the soil. Let's see what is contour ploughing. It is the one which orient crop furrows following the contour lines of the farmed area. Contour ploughing is done at right angles to the hill slope. The ridge and furrows break the flow of water down the hill. Furrows move left and right to maintain a constant altitude which reduces runoff. Contour ploughing was practiced by the ancient Phoenicians and is effective for slopes between 2 inches to 10 inches. Contour ploughing can increase crop yield from 10% to 50%, partially as a result of greater soil retention. Contour farming and terrace farming as means of soil conservation is shown in figure 3. Let's see what is terrace farming. Terrace farming is the practice of creating nearly leveled areas in a hillside area. The terrace forms a series of steps, each at a higher level than the previous. Terraces are protected from erosion by other soil barriers. The terraced farming is more common in small farms and in underdeveloped countries, since mechanized equipment is difficult to deploy in this setting. Soil conservation farming involves no-till farming, green manure and other soil enhancing practices. Such farming methods attempt to mimic the biology of a virgin land. They can revive damaged soil, minimize erosion, encourage plant growth, eliminate the use of nitrogen fertilizer or fungicides, produce above average yield and protect crop during drought or flooding. The result is less labor and lower cost that increase farmers' profit. No-till farming and cover crops act as the sink for nitrogen and other nutrients. This increases the amount of soil organic matter. Repeated ploughing, tilling degrades soil, killing its beneficial fungi and earthworms. Once damaged, soil may take multiple seasons to fully recover even in optimal circumstances. Critics argue that no-till farming and related methods are impractical and too expensive for many growers, partly because it requires new equipment. They cite advantages for conventional tilling depending on the geography, crop and soil conditions. Some farmers claim that no-till farming complicates weed control, delay planting and that post-harvest residue, especially for corn, are hard to manage. Now let's summarize what we have understood from this module so far. We have understood that environmental issues are increasing day by day and we get to hear a lot of new type of problems upcoming in this day and age. We have depleted and overused the natural resources available to us so much that these pose a threat that the little of what remains of our treasure will not be sufficient to sustain our own future generations. This has made some realize faster than the other who are yet to learn and to understand the increasing threat that we will face. We all tend to ignore the fact that one small step can lead to a whole lot of difference if made by many on a large scale. Though late, but we need to make ourselves more environment friendly. The sooner the better, as time waits for none, and the mistakes that we are so ignorantly making may not affect us now, but in the end it will be affecting us and will have to pay for all that we have done so far. Thank you.